Right then, hello, good evening, and welcome everybody. My name is Paul, and if you didn't know it already, I'm also called Knickknack, and I'm the brains, so help me God, behind Knickknack's daily teaser. You've possibly seen them floating past on YouTube, but if you haven't, there's going to be a card up here somewhere that will take you straight to this year's. I'm also something of a fan of films, and I try and watch those when I've got free time. And I'm also a fan of TV shows. I like the odd bit of science fiction, the odd crime procedural comes to mind here. I saw Des recently, that was quite fun. But I'm also a fan from practically childhood of the series Doctor Who. I've enjoyed it and watched it and followed it for years. And something you may or may not have noticed, if you haven't seen my review of it, is that I've recently seen episodes 1 and 2 of Fury from the Deep, the recently released, restored and reanimated Patrick Troughton story. I'll try and put that in on the end cards here. But I thought I should tell you that I've just recently seen tonight, quite literally, which is why I'm filming this now, I've seen episodes 3 and 4. The next pair of episodes in the series, I wanted to give you my thoughts on the subject. Episode 3 picks up from where episode 2 left off, showing us the Doctor, Jamie and Victoria, Patrick Troughton, Fraser Hines and Deborah Watling at Harris's apartment and taking some seaweed for examination at the TARDIS, leaving Harris, and I didn't recall the actor's name, typical me, but leaving Harris to make sure that his wife Maggie, Jean Murphy, gets to the sickbay. Meanwhile, Robson, the man in charge of the base, played by Victor Madden, argues with Van Lutyens, the consultant on site, and by the chief engineer, John Abernary and Hubert Rees. At the TARDIS, the Doctor, with help from Jamie and Victoria, work out that the seaweed can move, scary, and unrealised at the time by all three, that the seaweed recoils from screaming. Keep that in mind, that's going to be important. While they're on their way back to the base, Robson orders the crew to check on the impeller before heading back to his cabin, and, after being locked in, is attacked by the weed. He only flees from his room and disappears when he's rescued by Harris. Harris, in the meantime, has contacted HQ for help in the shape of senior manager Megan Jones. She's on her way towards the end of this episode. He's also contacts sickbay to find out about Maggie, and it's only while he's there he finds out Maggie's gone missing. Episode 4 picks up from episode 3, showing us Maggie meeting Robson on the beach outside the base and telling Robson very specifically, "You know what you must do," then swimming out to sea. Harris finds Robson's not long after Maggie has vanished, only for Robson to tell him that Harris will see her soon. Back at base, Jamie and Victoria are trying to get some rest, although Victoria confesses to having heard doubts about their travels with the Doctor. Meanwhile, the chief engineer and his staff are still working on the impeller and are being left with no clue about where the blockage is, nor where the sound is coming from. That leaves Van Lutyens to make one hell of a risky decision. Somebody's got to go to the base of the impeller to find out what's happening. He's the only person capable. And when Van Lutyens doesn't return, the Doctor and Jamie volunteer to try and find him, little realising that the seemingly friendly Mr. Quill and Mr. Roke, the engineers manning the lift, aren't as friendly as they seem. Nor is the recently arrived Maggie Jones, who is incredibly sceptical, understandably, about what she's being told. She's also sceptical about the one big request Harris put in. The rigs have been taken over. Harris wants them evacuated, and then he wants them destroyed. It's only then the Doctor returns to the control room with Jamie and with Victoria and with the weed. Now, what did I make of all this? First things first, I have to mention one thing: eyeballs. In my video and written reviews of episode 1 and 2, I mentioned how the animators seem to have changed Patrick Troughton's eyeballs, or eye colour, from blue, the physical blue we know they are, to green. Why, I don't know. I suspect it's to do with the colour grading, the overall tone of the story. So, of course, in these 2 episodes, in 3 and 4, they are still green. In the episodes. In the actual title sequence, I think there's a standard one they've used for these episodes from Macra Terror going forward. In the title sequence for these episodes, they're still blue. Granted, the coloured choice is fine, they match the general palette for the story, or for the colour versions of the story, and frankly I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't have been looking for it, having seen it in 1 and 2. Now I have, it's staring me in the face every time I see one of these episodes. It's got no effect on the story, it looks fine. It's just one of those little things that I've noticed. The story is, I should add, developing well. Maggie's possession by the weeds coming along, as is Robson's. Quill and Oak are an unnerving take on the odd couple trope of villains. As unnervingly menacing as Terry Pratchett's Pen and Tulip or Neil Gaiman's Croup and Vandermeer in Neverwhere. And it's a similar menacing take, a far more menacing take on Dibber and Glitz, if you want a Doctor Who take on similar characters. Yes, there's flaws. You can see the eye colour as one. Another that sprang to mind that I've noticed throughout these episodes, Harris always speaks of my wife rather than Maggie, to give you another. For me personally, that my wife thing, that's far more distracting and dehumanising than the eye colour. It's a bigger problem to me. It's just far more noticeable. That said, Fury from the Deep is a very good Base Under Siege story, on a par with Troughton's best serials. Frankly, and hopefully by Wednesday or Thursday, I'll have watched the last 2 episodes and I'll be able to tell you about them. Hopefully, you'll be free to join me. Have fun, have a good day, take care, be good, look after yourself.